Hey y'all, hope you're doing well today. So I'm a little late, but I'm here and I'm excited. I just had a crazy weekend and just very busy with my schedule, but it's all good. And so I'll share a little funny with you. I'm going to be talking about something that we can ponder with regards to maintaining our peace through the holidays. Everybody's like on pins and needles and stressed out and everything, so that just adds to it. And so I try not to get out a whole lot, really ever, but especially during the holiday season. I love Amazon. I love my online shopping. And so, but my funny to share with you all is the fact that I literally was plugging up my microphone here to use with y'all. And I heard somebody laying on the horn out here, going by on the road, and I thought, they were laying on it as they were going past, and I thought, okay, well, it's already starting, it's November, it's about time, and then there was just a little icing on the cake there, as soon as they let off the horn, I heard somebody screaming, so there you go. But I feel like this is probably a good time for us to talk about how to maintain peace, amidst the chaos, because it's here all the time anyway, but especially so during the holiday season, right? So I hope you're doing good, and let's go ahead and dive in. So I'm not sure what I'm going to title this yet. I usually wait until I'm done, and then I just kind of land on whatever feels right as far as a title. But I start with a concept, and I put it in quotes in my notes here in front of me. I love my notes. They do help. But I always put, a title, a tentative title, you might say, in quotes. So I'm starting with this concept, which is how connection works with regards to spiritual influence, right? The connection of spiritual influence. And I believe, this is just me, right? I believe that we can be influenced from the spiritual realm in general, however you want to perceive that, right? Like whatever lens you want to use to whatever that means to you, the spiritual realm. I believe that we can be influenced, from the good side or the bad side or the evil side, either way. But I had fun putting this message together. It was kind of a challenge for me because it's a new concept for me. And you're going to see what I mean as we dive into this, the kind of things that we're going to be talking about. But as always, my goal is just to get the wheels turning for you. And I just hope that, check my settings here, I just hope that it's beneficial for you. So it gives you some things to think about. So I was thinking about sayings the other day and how, because I started these notes several days ago, but I was thinking about how you hear people talking about when someone puts on airs, to put on airs, right? I have no idea what made me think of that saying, to put on airs. But essentially, it means when somebody thinks they're better than everybody else. They just have this really obnoxious air of arrogance, right? And, I feel like if you're in a good place of peace, you're healthy, you don't have any open, wounds, to your soul, everything's good, rocking along. When you see these people, they're kind of like entertainment. But if you're in a bad place and you're exposed to these people during that time, it's kind of like you can't even just relax in their presence. They just really rattle you. You're literally unable to just be calm and just chill out. It's just not even possible in their presence, right? It's like they keep you on your toes energetically. And so these people, there's just something about, like they carry this irritated spirit, the spirit of irritation. And this kind of, bleeds off onto you, right? And so, yes, so the concept of air is really interesting because I'm going to read to you in Ephesians chapter 2, verse 2, it says, "Wherein in time past You walked according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air, the spirit that now worketh in the children of disobedience. Now, this is going to tie into the very end of the message. Notice how it's describing this spirit, but it's not a good, it's a malevolent, a bad, nefarious spirit, however you want to say it. It's bad intentions. That kind of spirit is working in people who are disobedient. Okay? In other words, you might say they don't have a code of ethics at all, or maybe what they perceive as their code of ethics is really not in alignment with the good qualities of the fruit of the Spirit, like love and patience and forgiveness and all those good things, those good qualities, humility, to have a humble spirit and just stuff like that, right? Joy, wanting to bring joy to others and to try and stay in this positive frame of mind and carry this good vibration, you know what I'm saying, everywhere they go. So these children of what's called here in this verse, children of disobedience, right? They don't have a code of ethics, or either it's very corrupted, okay? And because of that, then there's this spirit at work in them, okay? And it's tied to, conceptually in this verse, that it says even we, right? Wherein in time past ye walked according to the course of this world, because this is when you're naive. This is before your awakening, you might say, before you've been reborn, before your eyes were opened, before the veil was torn. However you want to position that in your mind, it essentially means we were caught up. We were caught up in this illusion, this falsehood, and it was benefiting those who weren't naive, who were caught up in this illusion of falsehood consciously, on purpose, and working it to their advantage, through the people who were naive and asleep. So, really interesting. But it's tied to, right here, the prince of the power of the air. Now, so let's look at, that's one spirit, right? Since we're talking about spiritual influence, right? The spiritual realm, that's kind of related to, the spirits from the dark side. And then we have another verse in 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7. And I just want to pause here. If you're new to my channel, I just hope that you are able to apply your own lens to everything I share with you all. You know what I mean? I like to pull examples from all different religions and philosophies and things like that. So I just hope that this is an inclusive place for you all. I try to, that's my goal. You know what I mean? So I just hope that you're able to still benefit no matter what your beliefs are. Okay, so 2 Timothy chapter 1 verse 7 says, "For God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and of a sound mind." So what we're going to be talking about today is the fact that the mind itself is where the battle happens. You've heard that the saying, the mind is the battlefield, the spiritual war, as far as spiritual warfare. So you have this the spirit that's working, both are described as powerful. You have the prince of the power of the air, right? And then you have this, we have a spirit of power, of love, and of a sound mind from our loving Creator, right? So we're going to learn what it means to have a sound mind consciously, right? What we can do to make sure that we are always tethered to or grounded in or rooted in peace in that manner, to make sure that our mind is not swayed and manipulated. You see what I'm saying? So I looked up the word spirit, and it's, or actually spiritual, and it's from the Latin spiritualis, which means pertaining to breath, breathing, wind, or air. So this is really interesting because let me start at the end here. Air is related to the prince of the power of the air, which is, the devil. right? It's the darkness. But let's back up. This definition of the Latin word spiritualis is pertaining to breath, which is related to God. God is said to be the source of our spirit, right? The one who breathes life into us, that life force energy, right? Coming from God. And there's verses relating that to the breath of God. And of course, it's known just throughout all different belief systems. And I'm talking throughout the ages. You guys are, I'm sure, aware of this, and even in the military, and just all kind of different examples where, we can bring ourselves back to a place of peace through our breath, through intentional breathing. So there's power. There's power there with regards to air and breath, right? What's interesting is, here's just another saying that came to mind when I was writing these notes, which is, if something is very impactful to you, you might say, that took my breath away, And, sometimes it can be good, like you're shocked in a good way. But a lot of times it's related to, shock and fear and just something coming out of left field, and you're just blown away. Right? Psychologically, emotionally. So, what's interesting is I want you to think of this. In that example, when something takes your breath away and you're or you have the wind knocked out of you, there's another saying, you're essentially in a place, a trauma response of being frozen. Okay, you're in shock. And in that moment, psychologically, whatever this was that was so impactful to you, that did that to you, right? That solicited that reaction from you, it's just as an automatic reaction. You had no control over. In that moment, that thing was like God to you, conceptually. It was that powerful. Remember, because it's related to the breath, right? And that's related to God. And then you have air related to Satan. So my point here is, ideally, we would get to a place of spiritual maturity where we are so firmly rooted in not just our beliefs, but our conscious awareness tied into and working with and through our beliefs, that we aren't shaken. Or we aren't shaken as much. I don't know that we can ever get to a place where we're never shaken, but I think we can get to a really good place, where it doesn't impact us as much. So, we don't want to get to we don't want to remain easily affected, because again, that's what just really cruel people love to do to us, just poke at us continually. So we're going to talk about this, but let me share this with you. So as far as the word spiritual, in the late 14th century, and this is from the Online Etymology Dictionary, one of my favorite resources, but it says that spirituality is originating with God. Okay, the Old English word for spiritual is Godkundlik, Godcundlic, Godkundlik, which means divine. Now, to break it down further, this was really interesting to me. The Old English part of that word, the middle of that word, kund, C-U-N-D, means pertaining to a companion of God. Pertaining to a companion of God. And then it's also, that word kund is also related to kond, C-O-N-D, which is short for condition. So here we're starting to understand that when you're talking about the spiritual realm and you're talking about the divine, and you're looking at old language that breaks this down conceptually for us to help us truly wrap our mind around it better and gain a deeper understanding, we're starting to understand that there's It's not just talking about God or God-like and that's it. It's deeper. It's richer than that. It's pertaining to a companion of God. And Jesus calls us his friends, a companion, right? To walk with through this life. Okay? So there's companionship. In other words, conceptually, consider this. We're not supposed to just believe in this higher power and just walk through our life, feeling like we're facing everything alone and struggling alone. And then it's like, man, I can't wait to get home and just, I'm just going to have to really sit down and just talk with the Lord when I get home, think about it and pray. That he's detached in that manner, you see. That's not a relationship in the sense of what I believe it's intended to be. So there's a difference, okay? To be spiritual, truly, God Kundalik, or in that divine place, the hidden place, right, means that we are a companion of God, okay? And also, Kund, C-U-N-D, denotes the origin, I hope I'm saying this right, derivation, like where something derives from, or likeness, or of that kind, inclining to, right? And then you have the rest of the word, which is, God Kundalik, like. We are inclining to the ways of God, exemplified in Jesus, if you're a Christian. So, just really interesting. And then I also was reminded of the word Kundalini, which is K-U-N-D, and then Alini, which is literally snake, right? Which is said to represent that life force energy that is coiled at the base of our spine and can be activated, where it shoots up through the spine to, I think it's related to the chakras. I'm still learning about all this, but it's like where, this life force energy is activated and we are able to access this higher level of awareness where, we're able to achieve a certain level of enlightenment, right? So Kundalini, literally snake, right? And then to break that down, again, Kund would be condition, and then all is relating to, and you have Ini from the Merriam-Webster Dictionary Online, which says animals that are or have the form of, and then it says especially of tribes and orders. So if you go back here, let's put this together with that opening verse I shared with you all in Ephesians chapter 2, verse 2, remember? It's talking about people that are walking according to the course of the world, according to the prince of the power of the air. So those two are synonymous here. And talking about that spirit that is working in the children of disobedience. Suddenly we understand, okay, there's a perfect example of spiritual influence. It tells you where the spirit originates from, and the fact that it's very active in our world and that it's at work in or within the children of disobedience. So on the flip side, right, we have God Kundalik, right, spiritual, those who are spiritual with regards to companionship with God, our Creator. So we're going to dive into that piece now, okay? Yeah, I think I'll skip that part. I made a lot of notes, y'all. So, let me share this with you all. Okay. What came to mind for me, well, I'll go ahead and share this first, and then maybe it'll make more sense to you all as well, okay? I was thinking about God calling us a friend, and Jesus calling us a friend, and then also, with others, or I think this was actually, I can't remember where this was in the Bible, where he references your father, the devil, right? But let me share with you John chapter 8, verse 44. It says, you belong, well, here it is. It's late. You belong to your father, the devil, and you want to carry out your father's desires. This is showing that spiritual influence. That's my point here. He was a murderer from the beginning, not holding to the truth, for there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks his native language, for he is a liar and the father of lies. So we're starting to understand that goodness has an origin and an influence on people, and evil has an origin and influence on people. Okay, so that right there made me think conceptually of bonds, being bonded to, imprisoned by, chained, tied to, and I was thinking about chords and strings. Okay, let me share this real short with you real quick. I'm going to try to, y'all know I'm long-winded, but I'm going to try to make it short. So I was watching all these random videos when I was trying to wake up this morning in bed on YouTube. And there's this one on, I think it's called Quantum Physics. And it was talking about the observer effect and how they had performed the double slit experiment. And it was really interesting. And so, it was a debate between particles versus waves in the result, right? What was able to be observed. And there's this one, I think I'll share the link with you all in the description. It was pretty cool. There's this one lady's channel that I found, and she was showing an example with a laser light. And it was really cool. She also had some water and different things she was doing for her tests, right? But in one, she used fog. She actually purchased a fog machine, and the result, and you'll just have to see it, the result was that it illuminated additional streams of light, right, from the light going through. I forget what she was using at that time. I think it may have been the double slit. It's like conceptually you expect it to look one way on the other side when it goes through these slits. You just assume you think you know what it's going to be like, but it doesn't turn out that way. But you can't see it with a naked eye with the laser beam until you apply the fog. And I thought that was kind of cool, because we all know what it's like that, going through the fog of psychological abuse does wake you up. It illuminates, just like in the physical experiment that she performed. It illuminates things that we were blind to before. So I thought that was kind of neat. So I'll share that link with you all. But thinking about strings in general, right? A line or a string or a chord. The Middle English word was string, I guess, S-T-R-E-N-G, meaning line, cord, or thread. Which this is the noun version of this, right? And then often used to represent a string of a bow or a harp, which produces a tone. Here again, we're starting to tie in the concept of music, right? Musical influence, vibrations. I'm thinking of, a lot of the folklore, the stories where people were heavily influenced by, musical notes. Something to think about, right? So this was also interesting. And plural, right? When we're talking about strings, a lot of times it's referencing tackle or rigging, right? And here we have Jesus, who, with his disciples, he told them to go and be fishers of men, okay? I was thinking about all kind of different phrases we have, like no strings attached, to be on the hook for something, to pull strings, meaning to control the course of affairs, right? To string someone along, which is to deceive, right? And then related to music, the notion of to tune someone for some purpose. So here we can see both sides of the symbolism here regarding a string. We can see that it can be used for good or bad conceptually. Okay, so when you think about tuning, right? What does it mean to tune something or someone? Because again, to string someone along is to tune someone for some purpose. And then the verb to tune is to adjust or alter the frequency of. So when you start thinking about energetics and the fact that, a lot of us believe we are at our core energetic beings, and that we can pick up on intuitively, bad energy in others, right? So the manipulation that can happen, I believe, can happen at that level. Our vibrations truly can be affected by who we surround ourselves with. We have to be so careful, who we allow into our personal life at that level, who we surround ourselves with. We have to be so, so careful. And then you have the past participle of string, which is strung, right? Very symbolic as well. From 1840, it means in a state of tension. To be high strung indicates a sensitive nervous system. And of course, to be strung out means to be addicted, right? Not a good thing. In the 1680s, to be strung meant to be threaded or put on a string, okay? Or you might say caught in the web, right? And webs are associated with deception and lies and illusion. And then you have to thread, meaning a verb, is to put thread through a needle. Okay, to thread a needle. And then you have, this was really interesting too, threadbare, having the nap worn off. I thought that was cool, because think about when you're caught up in the illusion, the web of lies, it's like this layer on top of the truth, which is really, I feel like all there really is just covered up with a bunch of BS, deception. And so when you're caught up in this illusion, unknowingly, because you're naive, that's called being asleep spiritually, right? Well, to be threadbare, right? If you're yanked off or away from the thread or the web, well, that means to be threadbare, having the nap worn off. You're awake. You've woken up. I thought that was kind of cool. And then sometimes, not sometimes, this is actually literal. Thread as a noun means when cord is twisted. You have multiple pieces twisted together, or I guess maybe even one piece. So, yes. So let me share with you all just a little side note. Matthew chapter 19, verse 24 says, and I love this. I love it. When Jesus says, I'll say it again. Like, he just, he was so frustrated trying to get people to just like listen and understand. It says, I'll say it again. It is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich person to enter the kingdom of God. Now, so I looked up, apparently there's some, debate, I guess, over the word camel, because it was changed from the Greek text, camelon, Kamelon, and so it was changed from that to mean a thick rope or a ship's cable, camelon, Kamilon. So it could have meant literally a thick rope, right, or a ship's cable. In that verse, just something to think about. So either way, it gets the point across. You see what I'm saying? And that's all we care about, is the point. So there's several verses in the Bible that reference a blue cord, and it's talking about loops of blue, and then blue cord, and it's it's typically in relation to garments for priests and things like that. So there's definitely some symbolism there with the color blue. And I even found, I forget where it was, the source, or I would share it with you all, but there's supposed to be some symbolism with it to serve a purpose, that when one sees the blue cord, we are supposed to be reminded of God's commandments, right? I was thinking about how our blood is blue, or blue-green before it's exposed to oxygen. And I found this really interesting, that back in biblical times, blue, like I said, was very revered, but it was actually harvested, the dye, from like snails from the ocean, from shellfish, things like that. I was like, wow, that's crazy. But I've heard of the silver cord before, because it's said to be related to astral travel. But we're going to talk about that a little bit too. We're going to touch on it. I was thinking about sayings again, true blue, and what blue represents, spiritually, the blue sky and healing and divinity. When you do a little bit of research with regards to blue, the color blue, and symbolism, right? It's mostly associated with truth, right? And it's interesting too that blue is typically associated with peace, or I would say even furthermore, like a deep peace, so much that it can be kind of mellow and kind of, border along the side of, sadness, to feel blue, right? Depression. But it's also a very peaceful color. And then I looked up one of the roots of blue, which is a Proto-Indo-European root. I don't know how to say this. Bel, maybe, Bhel, meaning shining bright, glow, blaze, and burn. And I was thinking about the hottest flame, on the color spectrum. It's blue. That's the hottest. Also, I thought it was interesting. We were talking about, the physics earlier and how... particles and waves. Blue is supposedly the shortest wavelength. I thought that was kind of interesting. But I was, thinking back too about the silver cord. Okay, we're going to tie all this together. But Psalms chapter 66 verse 10 says, "For you, God, tested us. You refined us like silver." So, we know that metals are, when you think of alchemy, they're associated with refinement, right? I actually found a verse referencing the silver cord in the Bible, and this is in Ecclesiastes chapter 12 verse 6. You might think of it as the cord of life, It says, "Remember him before the silver cord is severed and the golden bowl is broken, before the pitcher is shattered at the spring and the wheel broken at the well." So I thought that was really powerful. That sounds like some pretty serious stuff. And I feel like we can internalize this, or, it could very well be referencing something, bigger than us, material, spiritual and material, who knows? So just really, really interesting. Again, when I think of the concept of truth, I find it in layers. It's not an either or. When I look for, in my research, it never turns out to be an either or situation. It turns out to be a paradox. It's a both and. It's a very inclusive, truth. So, yeah. So when you're doing research on this verse here, you're going to see some articles that are talking about, on one side, it's referencing, the mechanics of the heart, the golden bowl, right? And then, other articles are talking about, the physical reality, trying to piece together the clues here. Kind of gives you a sense of time running out, and cycles with regards to, the earth, right? So let me wrap up by saying this. The takeaway on this concept of spiritual influence is this, and this is my version, okay? This is just my version regarding a spiritual cord, okay? I feel like we need a spiritual home base. Okay, because we can be so easily lured by the fog, okay, which is deception masquerading as truth. We'll never be totally immune, because we're in the world, but we don't have to be of it, but it takes effort. It truly does. That's the path. Is a path of effort. You don't want to go back to sleep. So, with regards to, a thread or a cord, conceptually, we need, if you think about it, we need a clear line of sight, okay, to be able to consciously choose our path every day, day after day, even moment to moment. It can come down to that. Just, trying to stay, on your toes, not nervous, but just paying attention, trying to stay awake moment to moment, right? And And I say we have to stay on our toes because deception can show up, just time after time in different ways. It can look differently to us. We need to be able to catch it. And that's what we work at. That's what I like to work at here on my channel. So if we maintain this personal path or spiritual cord or tree of life, conceptually, also referred to as the narrow path, right? And I understand that these things can have different meanings as well. Again, I just encourage you to use that lens of both and, okay? Because we're just visualizing here to grasp a concept. But if we maintain this path, okay, then consciously, and we have to do it consciously in our mind and heart, and especially we need to maintain it in our actions, okay? Even when our mind and our heart are struggling, if we've been shaken, if we've been shocked once again, by I can't believe, this person did this to me or whatever it is, sometimes our mind and heart are kind of struggling, That's just part of this human experience, to suffer, unfortunately. But that's why if you have this cord to come back to and grasp onto, okay, let's think of it, both vertically, because it's kind of like you grab onto it and you just remember to look up, you know what I mean? That there's more than this mess you're caught in right this minute. And also you can think of it horizontally as a path. You come back to it, in your mind and your heart, and you grasp onto it, and you ground yourself in that truth, the truth that the cord represents, okay? And it's going to provide you that line of sight through the fog. It's going to cut through it. You've heard that phrase, cutting through the BS, right? Cut through it. So that's what it's going to serve for us. But we can use it as a home base, and we can use it as guidance with just where do I place one foot in front of the other, to take small actions, even to just get myself back in alignment, away from chaos, and situations and people that seek to disturb our peace. They're just looking, they're just poking at you and just, waiting sometimes, to see what they can they rattle your spirit or not. And I don't know, again, that we can never get to a place where they never do, but I think that it dissipates quicker and quicker. We're going to talk about it. But this cord, again, it's meant to bring us back to our place of truth and peace again and again. And this cord is spiritual. It's conceptual. And here's what's interesting. You can visualize it as a straight line. Or if you zoom out, again, from this elevated viewpoint here, you might actually discover that it makes a loop. If you think of like the circle of life, okay? Here's what I mean. When you come back to home base, this path, this cord, okay, it's meant to be at work in your life, okay? It's meant to ground you, but if you think of life force energy, it's also meant to move you to action, okay? And it's meant to produce results in your life, and that means to clean your spirit. And so we're going to talk about that too. But it's like, people can be just stuck in destructive loops too, right? Or you can have this circle of life that you come back to, right? Think of it like a ring of fire, to come back to. And it's like serving as a refiner's fire when you come back to it, and you've woken up to just another trap that you were involved in a relationship or a friendship that was really a frenemy or whatever it was, business collaboration where they just exploited your trust or whatever it was. When you come back to this home base, okay, it may burn. When I say ring of fire, that's what I mean. It may kind of like, oh God. And you know why? Because it's meant to illuminate those falsehoods that snuck into your life. Okay, so you have to deal with those first. Those have to burn away first. Okay, just like a good friend. Just like when you go to a really good friend you've known for a long time, you can trust them. They're going to tell you the hard truths, aren't they? They're just going to be really real with you. And they're not going to tiptoe around. They're just going to slap you with some hard truth. But you need it, and you thank them for it. You know what I mean? So that's got to happen first when you come back to this thread or this cord or this circle of life, okay? And then also, it's personal. It's a very personal thing, this cord. Think of an umbilical cord, and the fact that, once you've dealt with the sharpness of, okay, I really did ignore some red flags or whatever, and you kind of let the old fall away or burn off, then you can start to replenish your spirit again. You can get that nourishment, see, just like an umbilical cord, spiritual, right? You get that nourishment, that manna, you might say. Okay, so, but first, I believe it has to burn off the layers of garbage first. So it's painful. It's painful. And I'm not going to lie, I definitely keep some snacks on hand, like Reese's peanut butter cups and cookies and things like that. And I just encourage you to do the same. Don't shame yourself. Don't deny yourself. We all need a little bit of comfort, as long as it's not too bad for you, right? Just kind of helps you during that process when you come back to home base and you're like, okay, I'm going to get real with myself. And I've got this internal guiding light that's going to be really real with me, and the spirit of truth. And I'm going to face it, and I'm going to say, okay, I need to let that go. I need to let that connection go. I need to let that pursuit, whatever it was I was heading down, I need to let that go. You see what I'm saying? And then have yourself, some peanut butter cups, whatever, and then start feeling better. And then say, okay, now what do I need to do, right? But, it's this process of, ideally we would get to where we don't let go of it, or we're just kind of tethered to it, everywhere we go, consciously, so that we're making better decisions. That's the goal. But, like I said, I don't think we can ever get to the point where we're never, ever triggered or, hurt in any way. But the thing is, the more we go through this stuff, we get stronger. And again, there's an old saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. It's true. It's true. And, I don't know if you've ever been like this, but, when I was younger, I could really feel like if somebody really just, was very rude and hurtful or whatever to me, I would just feel this adrenaline shoot up, and I would suffer from that stress. I could feel it in my body, I would suffer with it. There's people who they feel it and it just comes out. There's no filter, and then they regret, the way they reacted, right? And I've done that a time or two, but or a handful. But then there's times when a person can feel that adrenaline, that emotional response or reaction from this cruel world, whatever it was that affected them, and instead of it coming out, they can hold it in. It's still destructive. It's like poison. I don't really know what's better, to let it out and tell someone what you really think, or sometimes I think they need to be told, but it's a dangerous world, so I really don't recommend that. But then if you hold it in, then it can be like poison inside your body. It's just like, what do you do? What do you do? You're stuck in this world with cruel people. It is what it is. You have to learn not to attach. It's, when I was younger, phrases like "don't take it personal," that didn't do anything for me. I had to have like, I don't know if you call them platitudes or what, like sayings that everybody kind of throws around, and maybe you just have to be at a certain place in your life for certain ones to really resonate with you. I don't know. But for me, through personal experience, what I can tell you is this. It takes effort, conscious effort. You have to want it and you have to work at it. But the place you can get to is feeling the emotional response, and then getting to a place where you acknowledge it, you feel it, and you validate it in your own mind, and you say, that was really bad. That was really hurtful. That was really rude. That was wrong. Whatever it was. And you know what you know, and you claim that truth. You're holding on to that cord, right? Or you might even think of it like a sword. You got your shield up. You're holding on to that sword, right? Whatever it is. And it's your truth. And so you have to be so secure and strong in that as long as you're holding on to it, that feeling will actually go away, like quick, actually quick. And the difference, see, I can look back in my past, the difference is not attaching to it. Not attaching to it. Because when we attach to those negative responses inside of us, I think it's because we don't really know what else to do. Again, you have these older cultures that, had these traditions and rituals that taught their youth how to do life. It was more than the core curriculum in our school system. It was again, how to do life on an intellectual, spiritual level. And so we've lost a lot of that. And so, because a lot of it, especially in the olden days, it was related to psychology too, and understanding how the human mind works, and how does spirituality tie into that. So, we have to figure these things out ourselves sometimes. It takes longer than it should, I feel like, and life is short, but it's just the way it is. Better to get there at some point than never, right? Because unfortunately, some people never get there. They don't. I know you know that. So, but just getting to the point where we don't have a need to stay attached to these negative feelings. We know that everything's going to turn out all right. We may not know the future, but we know who holds it. You just got to have that truth that you hold in your heart and in your mind, and you truly do have to walk by faith. And just have these things, these literal things even you can go back to as your home base. These beautiful, fulfilling hobbies. Until you can get your mind and your heart, stable again if they've been rattled, or whatever it is. So it'll mean something different to each one of us, but I just hope that I got the wheels turning for you today, and I hope that I got you thinking about what this means for you, and how you can apply this in your life to just be able to have a place that you can come back to and call your home base. So thank you so much for coming along to hear the message. I hope that you have a beautiful day, and I'll see you again very soon.